My job is to help my clients grow. Sometimes it's my product. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's helping them with other services to help them grow. And then ultimately it comes back to me when the time is right. And I think that's something a lot of vendors miss. They think that their job is to sell something today. It's not. It's to make my clients, lawyers in this case, perform better, operate better, grow more. Then there'll be a piece for me down the road. Or if not, like you already have a great number. Maybe it's not, but maybe it's telling a friend about me. And I think vendors have lost that. Some vendors, they think, I got to sell, 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 sell. And I was like that when I first started in the industry. Then I said, this is not the right way to be. Let me help my lawyers grow, find the best way to practice law, anything I could do to guide them. And then it comes back to me when the time's right. So.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit. I have a very special guest today. I'm really excited about it. Paul Faust. He is the president of RingBoost. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate being here.
So we were just talking before the show started, and I was saying that, I'm familiar with your company, and we also, will buy vanity numbers. And so I was at the dry cleaners this morning, and the guy helping me out says, "Hey, Mr. Justin, if I needed to find you, how do I find you?" I said, "Man, you just got to 508,000. He goes, "What?" And I said, "You just got to dial 508,000. He's like, "That's it?" I said, "That's it." He's like, "All right, cool." And then he walked away, and I was like, "Shit, well, you got to include the area code." So I guess the new digital age we have, we still, the area codes, so New Orleans and all of Louisiana just got 10-digit dialing. So we're very fancy now. I remember when I moved to Dallas in 1998, all those years ago, they were moving to 10-digit dialing, which was very confusing for me because, they had to do like public service announcements. You don't have to press 1, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, "So you just dial the area. You don't use a 1? They're like, "No, it's not long distance." I was like, I don't even understand that. Fast forward 25 years. And Louisiana is finally catching up. But it does make for some interesting, I still do it because if you can imagine, like your entire life, you never needed an area code.
It's going nationwide.
Yeah. So now, now you need that area code. 508,000, that's our vanity number that we use. And, but I've been looking into a new area here that you might be able to kind of, guide me on. And that is short codes, because, Morgan's got his, right? #law. No, you're not a fan. My worry is it's ghastly expensive, and it's going to be like,
it's a lot more than that. It's more than just ghastly expensive from what I know. And there could be new intel out there. One, they only created a handful of those codes.
Yeah.
Morgan was willing to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars, had to subscribe to numbers in every market. It was millions of dollars. They only created, from what I know, about 12 to 15 of those. They're not creating more. They're sunsetting the technology.
Oh, wow.
Because I get requests from all the time. The other thing I learned is, let's say you wanted one. #Paul.
#Chopin.
I'd have to go to Verizon and ask them to do it. And if they say yes, great. Then I go to T-Mobile and they say yes. So I paid all this money, and then Sprint says no.
Yeah.
So you have to go to each carrier. So that's one reason I would never recommend it. Number two, they only work from cell carriers, and not even all of them. So no landlines, and don't tell me that people don't have landlines are still out there.
My mom and dad have one.
They also still don't work from some of the small carriers, and there's a significant learning curve. People don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Every single person knows how to dial a toll-free and local number. And the third answer is, if they work so well, why wouldn't every single person in the world have one? It's because they don't work well. The technology's not there. It's not appropriate. I would not recommend spending my dollars. When you're Morgan, you could throw a few $1 million at a test. Who cares?
Right.
So no, I would absolutely not recommend it. And I don't even think you can get them.
Well, that's good to know. So we went down this rabbit hole a year ago, and I don't know who's the big player in hosting the numbers. They bought everybody out. I can't remember the name. It'll come to me in a minute. But essentially, they were like, okay, well, we could build you out hashtag Chopin, but it's going to cost you. And the number they came up with was really just I wasn't going to do it. And I do think for the New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana market, it's a little advanced. And I had this thought about QR codes. So during COVID, everyone's got a QR code, and everyone acted like this is this new technology. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. We've had QR codes for years, many years. It's just nobody knew how to use them. You used to have to download a separate app to read them. It's just that Apple got wise and was like, hey, shit, you can just use a camera for this. You don't really need an app. And that's, and then COVID hit. So it's a perfect storm. My worry was that, QR codes are, if they are a wave of the future, they may still be 15, 20 years out. And I don't want to be the one investing in, future technology like that. We'll let someone else do that.
It's one thing that happens in the legal space. I've been doing it 20 years, and it's fun. Like, I have promoted toll-free and local numbers as a way to connect with clients. My business isn't phone numbers. My business is connecting people via voice communication, which I still think is the best way to communicate. It happens to be the tool is numbers, but it's fun over the past 20 years to watch. And lawyers are sort of like the cat watching a laser pointer. Yeah. It's MySpace, it's Facebook, it's links, it's these links. It's not those links, it's these other links. It's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Twilio, it's TikTok. No, it's not that TikTok. It's these TikToks. No, you got to do Meerkat, you got to do Periscope, and they got lawyers chasing, and no one wants to be last,
right?
And no one wants to miss the boat. And I've watched the same vendors at conferences who sold, MySpace and then Facebook and then YouTube and then TikTok and they get people spending, and the second you think you got your hands on it, it moves. They tell you it's content, not that content. It's links, these links. But it's a constant way to churn money out of people. And I understand the technology changes, so they have to do it. The one thing I've always loved about what I do is I've said the same thing 20 years ago as I said today. I can't baffle people with BS. It's a simple memory tool. Yes, there is new technology that allows texting to toll free, et cetera. Right. But it's simple, it's tried and true. And by the way, I am not saying that lawyers shouldn't be testing, Instagram and TikTok videos and some of the new stuff, but you could also bankrupt yourself chasing every ball, trying to keep up. You also are not going to compete with the big boys. If you see them do something, depending on what it is, you may or may not compete. There are ways that the guy with very limited budget can do well in his market without trying to, well, he's doing it, I have to.
Right.
If you don't have the budget of a W. DeBosier or a Morris Bart or a Shinar, you can't go, well, I'll just copy them.
Yeah.
Find your own niche. Find ways that you can compete in your market. So do I think voice can, yeah, if I went to a room of 1,000 lawyers and I said, hands up, you have a choice. Somebody can actually do via a chat bot, your website, an email, or get you on the phone. 1,000 hands will say, I want them on the phone, because you will convince them that you are the lawyer, you will empathize with them, that you can handle the case, and you will sign them up.
That's
so
right.
Then why are we driving everybody to websites and social media pages and TikTok videos? I think that there's nothing that will ever replace the power of voice and human connection, if done right. But I understand that I am one arrow in the quiver. You need a whole set of tools. There are people who want to only communicate via text.
Well, so
let's give them a way to do that. There are people that want to use social. So I am one tool to be used.
Texting. So there are. I agree with you. Like lawyers, they're such sluts. But and we all have money that we just want to throw around on, like, your beta. I had to say that the other day to a vendor, and I think it was probably rude, but essentially it was on AI. But I really want to get back to texting, but AI is another one of these where I said, well, why am I going to invest my hard dollars for your market research? Really, this is your beta. All I've got to do is hibernate for 2 years, and you're going to be giving me this shit for free. And the guy's like, well, I don't know. I was like, but you are, actually, because the market's going to demand it. But I'll let someone else go ahead and invest in your technology. We'll be fine. I know,
Yes,
I
because
know how to practice law. I don't.
the technology that's coming and is out there is going to make your job easier. But here's what it's also going to do: it could democratize a lot of things. Your demand letters could be just as good as the biggest law firm with whatever. You're this. Here's what technology can never, ever, 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 ever replace: Paul Faust.
No.
I am unique. It can never replace Justin. You're a unique person with a unique skill set, personality, and when you own that in your market, I don't care the fact that yes, AI and can make everybody's content on the web the same. Everybody's demand letters the same. Everybody's this the same. It's written by this. But you're not replacing you and I as human beings and who we are and what we stand for and the relationships we build. And AI will never be able to talk about the charbroiled oysters that I had with 4 lawyers at Pilma last week and the relationships and the conversation we built. That's who people want to do business with when it comes to me. And I believe that's who people want to do business with when it comes to a lawyer. Who is this person? How do I connect with them? How do I feel? Not that 7 different demand letters are identical.
That's exactly right. And we had a meeting this week about this because we were going to implement a new software that was technically an outsourced software, but essentially would just create a demand letter for us, And the thought was, hey, if I could move the ball forward on one case, just give you one more tool, then maybe we could resolve some of these quicker. And so we did a beta, and we put one good file together, we submitted it, and we got this 25-page long demand letter. And all of my trial team, my good lawyers here looked at it and they said, well, that's a pretty lengthy demand. I got to tell you, Justin, we don't need this. My demands are better than this. And this isn't how I would settle this case anyways. I don't know that I wouldn't just go hit them with a 25-page demand with all this nonsense in here. That's not how we get a good result. So I said, don't worry about it. It's off. Don't worry. It was good. It was it cost us a few bucks. We tested it. And to your point, you're right. I'm not worried about my competition and their investment in technology because I know that my people do a better job. And I know the power that the human connection, both with the client as well with, the adjuster, opposing counsel, and the judge and the jury. And that is not something that can be replicated through any technology.
People are assuming that technology is going to be able to do all this stuff. No, technology is going to allow some parts of the job to be done easier, to take out some of the monotonous tasks, but it still needs the human element, the human touch. Yeah. And so I think law firms need to deploy technologies to get files off desk quicker, speed up the money churn so we're not out there. And there's things that can be done, but the human element, the human touch of connecting is never going away, no matter what technology you deploy. Yeah. It just hopefully makes the job easier to run a practice.
Well, and one of the easiest pieces of technology that we were talking about before was that really was a game changer for our business was texting. And I was one of the very first things I invested in when it was still pretty cutting edge in our market. I'm thinking 2016, we got with ZipWhip, which is, they got bought out by Twilio and then they got shut down. Twilio was the name of the company I was thinking of before. And it was, we had one of their legacy platforms. It only charged us $25 a month. And what I found is new generations of people are phone phobic. They do not want to pick up the phone. They didn't grow up. I mean, this generation, my wife and I were talking about this. My kids, my wife said, I wish that our daughter who's 8 knew our phone number because it would make me more comfortable if she knew our phone number and if there was a problem. And I said, well, the problem is when I was her age, I absolutely knew our phone number. I still know it, right? Everybody remembers their childhood phone number because it's drilled into you. But that was one phone number I needed to know. Now, everyone's got a million phone numbers. It's impossible to remember. And there'd be no reason for her to know our number because she doesn't have a landline. She doesn't have a phone and she has no experience with a telephone. And when I was, when she's about to be in the third grade, when I was in the third grade, the phone rang, we'd answer the phone. I'd take a message, never give it to my parents, hang up. Right. So we were very experienced in how to have a telephone conversation. And that is this new generation of people is not going to be part of their lived experience. Meanwhile, the millennial generation, I find, they are phone phobic. So they would rather text. Now, what's great for us, so we got rid of ZipWhip fine. We moved to, they migrated us over to a new software at 10 times the price. That's okay. But it's still me there on my computer texting with potential clients and actual clients. And so it may not be my voice, that may not be how they want to communicate, but it's not I have to tell them, I was like, it's not a bot. Right. There's no AI here. This is just, this is AOL Instant Messenger in the year 2024. That's all this is. I'm just sitting there, in the screen, giving you little sound bites. The clients love it. And it was transformative for our business, where I can only have so many phone calls in a day, and I'm constant. And then you get burnout from being on the phone all day long versus this text. They like it, we like it. And it's become, it has probably replaced 75% of our phone time is now spent in texting clients. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but it's a reality.
Yeah, but because there are, first of all, it doesn't matter what we want, it's what the client wants.
Yeah.
And there are people, there are a lot of things that could communicate quickly over text. Hey, what time is my next appointment? When am I supposed to see the doctor? What is the status? Those are not necessarily things that have to have a voice call.
Right.
There are other things like, I want to talk to you about your case or your injury. There's certain things that need voice.
Yeah.
So if we could eliminate those, not nonsense, but the pure data calls, which is, yes, you have a mediation tomorrow at 10:30, or you go to see your doctor. And that could be quick, and some of that could be automated with some software. There's some companies out there that are automating that process to let people know, update on the case. That's stuff that we can free up time. There are other things like signing up a new client or checking on something important that needs voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's a horrible mistake for parents to not be forcing their kids to use the phone. I make my kids do it. I make my kids go out and meet people face to face, because those kids that have that skill will dominate the economies of the future.
I agree.
Because it's with voice has intonation, emotion, immediacy, the immediate area to say, wait a minute, can you repeat that? Or what did you mean by that? Versus I could say the same thing in words that can mean 5 things. So you should be, everyone listening, force your children in these generations to have phone calls. Force them to go out and meet people face to face and shake hands and have a conversation. I watch at the conferences now these younger vendors, and I try and guide them sitting with their head down. And when someone comes over, they're uncomfortable in a face-to-face communication. Why? Because voice communication is immediate. You can't hide. You can't think about your response. So people get afraid of it. I asked you a question. So how do you feel about blah, blah, blah? If I do that in a text, you can kind of formulate an answer, think about it, come back to me an hour later and say you were busy. If I talk to you, you can't.
Right.
So I think it's a dying skill that needs to be taught. And ultimately, you will see college courses in how to talk to someone face to face.
How to have a conversation. Hey, we all do it because, I was practicing law before the iPhone. And when you got in the elevator and we were going up to the 45th floor, you had plenty of time to have a conversation. And when you were in the elevator, you would tell everybody, as people would come on, you're like, oh, good morning, good morning. Oh, what do you, see you got there. What's going on? Did you watch the game last night? Now, I'm just as bad as everybody else. I mean, I'll see people, you get on the elevator and everyone's like, shit, they're looking for something to do on here. Like they don't even have anything on their phone. And I'm like, oh, you're going to go find something, huh? And I'm every bit as bad as everybody else.
But is there anything more disingenuous than Facebook popping up that it's your birthday today?
Right.
And I don't even have to type happy birthday.
It'll do it for you.
For me.
It'll do it for you.
All I got to do is click the button. I'd rather call and say, hey, man, happy birthday. Haven't heard your voice in a while. That's what separates and what will bring lawyers clients, that human emotion. Because if not, quite frankly, what do I need you for? I'll just find whichever lawyer is the easiest robots that does the work for me.
Then you are a bot. That's when,
Yes.
and then the AI components and the bots have an edge over you because they don't sleep. I got in trouble with my mother a couple of years ago for not posting on her Facebook "Happy Birthday," and I said, "Well, Mom, I called you, and she's like, but you didn't put it on Facebook," and I said, because there's an inauthenticity there. I mean, do you really just want to see the 50, stacked up, people saying "Happy Birthday, Happy
Yes.
Birthday"? Did you want the cake, the balloon, or did you want that cornucopia exploding emoji? Like,
No,
what?
they wanted to see that 200 people said something because my friend had 210, so I got to get there.
Right.
We've gamified all this stuff
Totally.
and we're losing the human element. And I think the lawyers that understand the human element and get in their community and people know who they are and they know who they care, that's a game changer as technology takes over more and more and more and more. Um, Otherwise, it'll be a handful of the biggest firms with the biggest money for tech. They'll just do everything automated.
Right.
And I don't believe in that world.
Yeah, we don't automate it. This is something that has been discussed here for almost 10 years. I had a paralegal who I loved dearly years ago saying, well, she had come from a big car accident mill. And they're like, well, they just use forms for all this and they automate it. I was like, well, we're not those kinds of lawyers. There's reinventing the wheel. I mean, and then there's just automation. You don't need that. And creating a document or the phone call, it's all about the connection, right? And ultimately, we're trial lawyers. So ultimately, I need to connect with two people, a judge or a jury. And there's only one way to do that. And it's through understanding intuitively, tone and eyes and facial expression and body position and emotion and creating emotion and being able to do these things. And you can't do it falsely,
Because automation may help you handle that client's case, I don't know, slightly quicker, but it will not lead to referrals. It will not lead to a client that loves you specifically and tells the world about you.
Yeah.
Because it just can't. It can't build that human connection. I think what happened in the legal field, because of the money coming into the field, the competition, the technology, I think people forgot that at the end of the day, this isn't well, if I invest in marketing and I have the best Facebook and the best tech, I could sign people up. My bot could do this, my bot could do that. I can get the bot for demand, blah, blah, blah. We forgot that at the end of the day, there's someone who was hurt or killed.
That's right.
There's a human being that's life was disrupted by an accident, an injury, a faulty product, a drug. There's a human behind that. And we need to remember that. And AI right now can't do that the same. That I have to understand that this human was affected and everyone around them was affected. And while technology can tell me exactly what this case should settle for based on 8 billion data points, it's not John Smith and his wife that's caring for him and his kids that can't throw a ball with their father and all these things. AI can't touch that.
Right.
And a human being can touch that. And I think that we can't lose sight of that. And at the end of the day, there's a human there.
And they don't, and the humans like both ways too. What it also doesn't understand is who your audience is, because an audience here in Southeast Louisiana and an audience in California are two different human beings with two different ideologies and experiences. And so, we saw this a while. I had this case not too long ago against a gun manufacturer. I'm allowed to say that. Yeah. And so we found ourselves in a dispute in federal court. So we're not even in, like, you don't forget low-lying parishes. Like, we're not down where, everybody works in the oil field and we're, on the water. No, we're like in New Orleans in federal court. And they think that they're going to out-lawyer us. So they fly in these lawyers from Atlanta. So, and this guy walks in and, he's, I'm sure he's billing it 600 plus an hour. Maybe he's not New York rates, but he's still, maybe he's more. What do I know now? But the federal judge says, where are you from again? Well, sir, I don't know what people in Atlanta do. I don't know in Georgia, but I'll tell you down here in Louisiana, and then rips him a new one on this position. And and I've said this many times, as people think, well, judges are here and juries are here and they're above that, and but they're not. No, all human beings are the same way. Judges and juries, they're all your audience. And so, that's the other thing. So one of these AI things that it was supposed to spit out a demand. And at the end, I said, okay, well, I'm just curious, what's the demand? And the guy goes, what do you mean? It's right here. And I said, no. Like, how much money are you asking for? And it's like a deer in headlights. He's just looking at you like, what do you mean? I said, well, see, that's what a demand letter is. It's not just explaining your case. It's why it's called a demand. It's because you're demanding a sum of money. How much money are you asking for? Oh, I don't think it does that. I was like, well, I don't need somebody to tell me about the case. I had to tell you about the case. I already know about the case. I'm curious, you're supposed to have this great software. Do you even know what the value of that would be in Southeast Louisiana? Because I'm here to tell you now, a juror in Southeast Louisiana is very much different than a juror in Southwest Louisiana, than in Northwest Louisiana, than Houston, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa. They're all different people. And they value things differently. So, we're back to an analog state. We are going to look at, like you said, where can I buy back my time so that I can do a better job for my clients? And then where do I just need to work, frankly, a little bit harder?
A little bit.
And
I've got one for you, but it's for a personal conversation, not for your podcast. For another vendor that I'm consulting for that I think could buy back a lot of your time and money. But we can talk about it offline.
all right, that sounds good. I want to hear that.
Since I've been doing this 20 years and I sort of know everybody, I've had dozens of vendors come to me and say, "Hey, can you introduce us to all your clients?" And I go, "Well, let me see your business first. Does it provide value to my clients?" Most I say no to. But there's a couple that I'm like, this is game changing. And I found a couple that I believe are game changers. And now I just call my clients and go, you got to look at this.
Check this guy out.
Because I think that's ultimately my job. My job is not to sell or license phone numbers. And by the way, I do it not just lawyers. I do it in every industry you could think of. You can't name an industry, but that's not my job. My job is to help my clients grow. Sometimes it's my product. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's helping them with other services to help them grow. And then ultimately it comes back to me when the time is right. And I think that's something a lot of vendors miss. They think that their job is to sell something today. It's not. It's to make my clients, lawyers in this case, perform better, operate better, grow more. Then there'll be a piece for me down the road. Or if not, like you already have a great number. Maybe it's not, but maybe it's telling a friend about me. And I think vendors have lost that. Some vendors, they think, I got to sell. And I was like that when I first started in the industry. Then I said, this is not the right way to be. Let me help my lawyers grow, find the best way to practice law, anything I could do to guide them. And then it comes back to me when the time's right. So,
well, that's, yeah. I mean, business to business sales is a longer game. When I sell, I mean, I'm in sales, right? I mean, I'm selling a service, not a product, but you really are too. But, we talk about this a lot with the consumer, business to business sales. I'm not going to say it's easier. That's not fair, but it's a different market and the strategy is really different. We see this a lot with some of our, coaches and marketing, strategists. And they say, well, for business to business, we do X, Y, Z. And I think it would work for you. And I was like, well, that's because you're selling to a bunch of lawyers. That's easy, right? You've already established lawyers are they're pretty slutty with their money and their ideas, and they're willing to go out. Consumers aren't like that, right? Consumers don't have time to waste. They don't have money to waste. And they are attuned to predatory lenders, salesmen, and et cetera. And so I was like, I can't. So no, like my clients are not listening to this podcast. That is not what's happening here. Hey, I wish you were. I'd love for you to, but you probably aren't, and that's okay. That's why, we really discussed, the business side of it, which is, another element that I really like. One of the reasons I like owning a law firm is because I like being a lawyer and I like helping people but I like the business and the operations and coming up with processes and thinking of new creative ideas to help those clients. And so I almost have two jobs.
Yep.
But the consumer is just so different. You just can't treat them the same way. But in business sales, it's a long game, right? And so
I've learned to play the long game.
I can't play a long
And
game
I
with my
also think that
clients.
lawyers and law firms need to understand you're just not marketing to that person that may or may not have been injured.
That's
You're
right.
marketing to their entire network, because when they say, I spoke to this lawyer, man, he made me feel good. He took care of me. That's who they tell their friends. So you're marketing to someone who never saw the billboard, never heard the radio, never listened to the podcast. But the person that I am speaking with is the conduit to what could be an entire community of people. You land that right one the right way. You handle it from the and this means not just the lawyer, the intake
The
person,
whole
the
thing.
paralegal,
Yes.
anyone that communicates with that client. You're marketing to an entire audience that you have no idea. And if you miss that, you could be blowing the major multi-million dollar case that hasn't happened yet because you blew off the one or didn't treat the one with respect. That was a slip and fall. And okay, maybe that wasn't the right client for you, but you lost the one a year from now.
That's right.
Because you didn't have that understanding that it's not one-to-one. It's one to everyone they know.
Right.
And that becomes something that has to be taught to the staff, taught to every single person in the process, that's who you're ultimately thinking about down the road.
Well, that's why I tell, my younger lawyers here, especially as they're starting out, I said, look, it's not just this case. You get that out your head. So, okay, fine. This case may not be the best case on your docket, but this client, you're creating a book of business. If you do a good job for this person, they will recommend you to their friends and their family. Or God forbid, if something were to happen to them again. And we've seen that, we've seen clients come to us with a very mediocre case, and then we do a good job. And 2 years later, they have a real case, but they remember you, and so
Yes.
you're building a book of business, and that's how you do it. But you do it with one happy customer at a time, which is a lot of work, unfortunately.
It's a lot of work,
what,
but it has to be how you go into the process.
right.
That I want people, like in my business, I want and we're speaking about law firms now. I want you to call me for everything, not for what I sell. I want you to say, Paul, I have a pain point. I got you. Go back to doing what you do best. Let me solve it, because I know the vendors. I know all the lawyers. I want to be that person for everybody, because then I know when it's ready for a service that I sell, you're coming to me.
Right.
I'm going to Paul because he's always been there. And I have lawyer friends of mine that I've been friends with for 15 years. I've never sold a thing to. But they've sent me clients. They've introduced me to people at conferences. They've spoken well about me from the stage because I approach it that way. So I look at it a different way. I don't look at everybody as a paycheck. I look at everybody as another human being.
Just another connection.
And where that will lead,
That's fair.
I don't know. It's just a different approach.
Totally agree with you. Well, hey, I'm getting this from...
Well, because they know I could talk all day.
Me too, right? So it's so unfortunate. So, hey, Paul Faust, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I love the words of wisdom. I won't go spending all my hard-earned cash on a hashtag anytime soon. Let our listeners know, hey, other business owners, RingBoost, where can they find you? Which is a silly question.
It's great. You can go to ringboost.com. You can, if you prefer to email me, paul@ringboost.com. You can call me at 914-200-0013. 13 is my lucky number. If you have a specific question, concern, thought, somebody could be offering you a number that's not for me. Call me if you want my opinion. I'm here to help. I love to help your businesses grow and love to connect with human beings. So I'm available anytime.
All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time today. Take care.
Thanks. We'll connect offline.
Sounds good.
Justin.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.